There's still a lot of debate when it comes to the details of how our brain interprets sound. It's one of those things that's very difficult to research. But what we do understand is that pressure, our ears respond to pressure. That might seem obvious, but there is an alternative, which is velocity, and I'm not going to talk about that. But our ears are pressure sensors, and essentially what happens is sound will reach our ear, be reflected and filtered in various ways by the pinna, which is the outside of the ear, and gradually it will make its way inside the ear canal until it impinges on the eardrum. Now at this point it's actually converted into vibrations in a set of bones which are known as the ossicles, and there's three of them, the malleus, the incus and the stapes, and these bones behave as a sort of gearing mechanism to adjust how loud the vibrations are when they actually are interpreted by the various nerve endings in our basilar membrane, which is inside the cochlea. Now at that point, once it does actually get interpreted, or received by those nerve endings, at that point it becomes a neuroscience issue, which is beyond what I want to talk about, and then our brain interprets it as sound. But the important thing is that there are a few things that relate to the kind of biology of our hearing. So the basilar membrane is the place in which we actually start to be able to discern pitch, and that's a fluid. It's a container of fluid, and then the nerve endings and the auditory hairs or the fibers experience vibrations in that liquid relating to the frequencies which we're actually experiencing. The pinna is important because it allows us to distinguish between sound coming from different directions, and everyone's pinna is pretty much unique, but we're all very used to our own pinna because we've had it from when we're born, and it helps us identify when sound is coming from behind us or in front of us or to the left or the right of us. We're not very good at identifying when sound is coming from above us, but that's something else. Equal loudness pertains to the fact that we hear different frequencies at different loudnesses differently. And just to clarify that, when sound is at a low volume, we tend to not be very sensitive to bass. So what you'll find is that when you turn your stereo system down, it will actually start to sound less bassy and less impressive. And this is an effect which is cashed in on by Bose and also Orbit Sound in some of our products, where we will compensate for the level of perceived bass, the level of bass that we actually experience in our heads, by boosting the lower frequencies as we turn the product down. So that's why equal loudness is an important thing to mention, because it relates to the fact that we don't hear all frequencies at the same loudness across different levels of loudness. As the sound gets louder, we tend to hear more flatly, if I could say that. So in other words, as the sound gets louder, the bass frequencies tend to be perceived as being on the same sort of level as the mid and the high frequencies. The stapedius reflex is the last thing I want to mention, and it's something that Mercedes have been incorporating into their design of their cars. Essentially, the stapedius reflex is a phenomenon whereby if we are exposed to a very loud sound, the gearing in our ossicles changes so that the sound is actually reduced in level. It's also accompanied by an adrenaline boost. So if you go to a club, you're very likely to experience the stapedius reflex, at which point your ear gearing inside those ossicles will change to help protect your hearing, and it will also give you an adrenaline kick, and you'll feel a little bit higher than you were before. And Mercedes use it in their cars in order to help reduce hearing damage when someone experiences an accident. As soon as the car detects that there's been an impact, a short burst of pink noise will be released to trigger the stapedius reflex, and this happens so quickly that the stapedius reflex occurs before the sound of the impact is able to damage the hearing of the driver.